The world sees Montoya Santana as a ruthless gang leader, a man who built a criminal empire behind prison walls and ruled through fear and violence. But what really created him is something most people don't want to talk about. Because it's not just about one man making bad choices. It's about a father who couldn't look at his own son without seeing a question he was too afraid to ask. It's about a system that took a teenage boy and turned him into a killer. And it's about how the very empire Santana built would eventually demand his death, not because he was weak, but because he finally developed a conscience. This is a story about generational trauma and the terrifying reality that sometimes, no matter how powerful you become, you can never escape what was done to you. Before Santana ever joined a gang, before he ever stepped foot in a prison yard, he was already rejected. The film opens in 1943 during the Zoot Suit Riots, American servicemen roaming Los Angeles, beating and harassing Mexican-American youth in the streets. Santana's mother gets caught in that violence, and the film suggests his very conception might have come from it. A sailor, a brutal assault, and 9 months later, a baby boy that Pedro Santana could never fully accept as his own. Pedro admits it later in the film, standing at his wife's grave.
When you were born, I tried to love you, but every time I looked at you, I wondered who your real father was. I wondered which sailor's blood you carried inside you.
Think about that. Your entire childhood, your father can barely look at you, and you don't even know why. You just feel it, this coldness, this distance, this sense that something is fundamentally wrong with you. Santana spent his whole life trying to earn something that was never available to him. His father's love was broken before Santana ever had a chance. By 1959, teenage Santana has already figured out the rules. If the world won't give you a place, you take one. He forms La Primera with JD and Mundo, just kids looking out for each other in a neighborhood where nobody else will. They're not thinking about criminal empires, they're thinking about brotherhood, about having someone in your corner when everything else falls apart. But one wrong turn changes everything. A chase through rival territory goes wrong. A store owner with a shotgun catches JD in the leg, and suddenly these boys get swallowed into juvenile hall. This is where Santana's real education begins. When another inmate tries to assault him, Santana doesn't just fight back, he kills him. And in that moment, everything changes. He earns respect, yes, but more importantly, he learns the rules of a world that actually makes sense to him. A world where power is clear, where loyalty is rewarded, where he can finally be somebody. The institution that was supposed to rehabilitate him instead gave him exactly what his father never could, a sense of purpose and belonging. What separates Santana from your typical movie crime boss is the quiet. Watch how Edward James Olmos plays him. There's no Tony Montana theatrics here, no explosions of ego. Santana moves through the world with this calm, calculating authority. He thinks before he speaks. He observes before he acts. In another life, these qualities make him a CEO, a community organizer, maybe even a politician. But the legitimate world never wanted him, so these gifts find their expression in the only arena that would have him. Inside Folsom, La Primera evolves into La M, the Mexican Mafia. Santana sits at the center, running drugs, gambling, extortion, prostitution. The old neighborhood beefs become irrelevant behind these walls. What matters now is race and survival, and the operation runs smooth. Contraband gets smuggled through family visits, fished out of pipes, distributed cell by cell. Enemies get handled with surgical precision. When rival gangs start making moves, Santana responds with calculated violence designed to send messages. Young guys like Little Puppet get pulled into the machine, forced to prove themselves through murder because that's the only currency that matters anymore. And when Little Puppet's brother begs Santana to let him take the hit instead, Santana refuses. The kid needs to earn his place. That's how this works. The gang provides everything the outside world denied these men: structure, purpose, identity, family, but it demands everything in return. The scenes after Santana's release are the most devastating in the entire film. Here's a man who commanded absolute authority behind prison walls, and now he's completely lost. His mother is dead. His father still can't look at him. His younger brother, Paulito, is already walking the same path, numbing himself with drugs and gang life. Watch Santana at that party after his release. He's paralyzed. Years of institutional living have stripped away whatever social instincts he once had. He doesn't know how to just be a person anymore. He only knows how to be a leader of men who fear him. Then he meets Julie, and for a moment you see something crack open. Here's a woman who represents everything he can't have: normalcy, tenderness, a future that doesn't end in blood. He wants that life, you can see it. But wanting something and being capable of having it are two different things. When he tries to be intimate with her, it goes wrong. The prison didn't just take his freedom, it took his ability to connect without violence. Julie becomes another casualty of the system that shaped him. She sees it clearly, even if he can't. She tells him the truth.
When I met you, I was impressed. Yeah, you talked about La Raza and education and the revolution, but you know what, man? You really don't care about any revolution, do you? You're nothing but a fucking dope dealer.
His downfall begins not with weakness, but with conscience. After years of ordering hits without hesitation, something shifts. Maybe it's Julie's influence. Maybe it's watching his brother spiral. Maybe it's just exhaustion with the endless cycle. When Little Puppet's name lands on a hit list, his brother Puppet begs Santana to intervene. And Santana, the same man who built his reputation on a ruthless enforcement, agrees. He tries to cancel the hit. He tells JD he's done. He doesn't want to lead anymore. JD sees it immediately. Santana has changed. He's showing mercy. He's questioning the methods. And in the world they built together, these aren't signs of growth. They're signs of weakness. Weakness is a death sentence. The signal goes out. Mundo gets his orders, and Santana's own men come for him on the tier. Mundo approaches with something like regret in his eyes. "You got too much heart," he tells him. And then the shanks come from everywhere. The men Santana led, the organization he built, turning on him exactly the way he taught them, before throwing him off the tier. But here's the tragic truth about the ending. Santana's death changes nothing. As he falls, the film cuts to the barrio. Paulito is driving through rival territory with young gang members. There's a child in the car. They hand the kid a gun. They tell him to shoot someone to complete his initiation. Pedro watches from the sidewalk, finally trying to call his son back, finally trying to be a father, but it's decades too late. The system already has Paulito, just like it had Santana, just like it will have the next generation. The machine keeps running. New Santanas are being manufactured every day in neighborhoods just like this one. The real-world aftermath of American Me makes this even more disturbing. The film's depiction of certain events reportedly angered actual Mexican Mafia members who felt the portrayals were inaccurate and disrespectful. According to various accounts, including interviews with Danny Trejo, these creative choices allegedly led to serious consequences for people connected with the production. Edward James Olmos himself reportedly faced threats. The world the film depicted wasn't just historical, it was ongoing, and it reminded everyone that the violence on screen had real counterparts still operating in the shadows. Santana's tragedy isn't really about gangs or prison or even violence. It's about what happens when a child is rejected before he ever has a chance. When institutions designed to help instead teach him to kill. When the only family available to him demands he surrender his humanity to belong. Pedro Santana couldn't love his son because of something that happened before the boy was even born. And that absence echoed through everything: the gangs, the prison, the empire, the death. The film ends with a question it refuses to answer. How do you break a cycle that started before you existed? How do you become the father you never had? Santana couldn't figure it out. Neither could Pedro. And somewhere in a barrio right now, another kid is learning the same lesson Santana learned, that if the world won't give you a place, you take one, whatever the cost. That's the real tragedy of American Me. Not one man's death, but the machine that keeps building more just like him.